Hello, my math-minded people. Wanted to take some time today to talk to you about the hot topic of math strategies for online problem solving. We're going to start by taking a look at some of the current strategies that we see in classrooms today. Talk a little bit about how and why we should adapt those strategies or what the need might be for changing them up a little bit. Talk about some of the most important components when we're trying to come up with a problem-solving strategy, and then talk about some new strategies that we might try incorporating with our students. Before we get started, go ahead and open the Google form that you'll find on the same page. The Google form will allow you to follow along and answer some reflection questions. And then you'll open the slideshow in a second video. That way you have access, or in a second window, so that way you have access to the links and the research. The first strategy I want to talk to you about is cubes. Cubes is probably familiar to you. You've probably seen this in many classrooms, or you might even use it yourself. Cubes is a good strategy because it talks students through the step-by-step process of solving the problem. It gives them specifics on what to do, circling those keywords, underlining questions, boxing in those keywords or action words, evaluating and then showing their work. But one of the biggest disadvantages of cubes is that it has so much annotating that sometimes we wonder, are the students really analyzing the question that they're reading? The next strategy is UPS check. This is another common one that we've seen in classrooms regularly. UPS check, it gives students an acronym for understanding, planning, solving. And one of the biggest advantages of UPS check is that it actually has a built-in opportunity for students to question and check their work. One of the disadvantages of this is that it's really vague. So unless you spend a lot of time teaching what understand means, sometimes it can mislead students. Another strategy is the RUNS strategy. RUNS stands for read the problem, underline the question, name the problem type, and then write a statement, a solution statement, for the problem. So one of the greatest advantages of this is that it forces students to identify what operation they're going to use, and they have to make a plan for how to solve their problem. But this can be a time-consuming process if students are writing a solution statement to every single problem that they answer. So we know that most of these strategies were designed for paper and pencil testing, but we have to consider, as we're making the shift to online assessments and online assignments, how can we adapt? So we need to make sure that students have strategies that equip them for any platform, whether it's paper pencil or something that can be transferred to using online. So how can we adapt? Well, let's start by thinking about why we chose the current strategies that we chose. What is your reasoning behind that? Are there pieces of your strategies that are the most important to you? Maybe your strategy includes a catchy phrase, or it gives students an opportunity to really analyze the data that they're looking at. You definitely want your students to develop a plan. Does your strategy include something that has them show their work? So if you're looking for something new, let's take a look at a couple different problems, or a couple different problem-solving strategies, I should say. The first one is the RISE strategy. So the RISE strategy really just simplifies some of the other strategies that you've already seen. And you'll notice that the difference between this strategy and some of the others is that it doesn't ask my students to circle or underline information. That's because we want it to be transferable. If students are looking at a problem on a computer screen, we want them to be able to transfer that to a scratch piece of paper that they have in front of them, that they will be allowed to use. So the R stands for read and record. So students read the problem, and you know that we like to encourage them to reread it also, and then record the important data that they see. So are there important numbers, words, anything that stands out to them that they think they might need to record onto their recording sheet? And then they have an opportunity to illustrate. So illustrate doesn't always mean draw a picture. Maybe they are building a table. They're recording that data in some type of chart. Maybe they're writing a number sentence or even drawing a model. The S stands for solve. So students make a plan and then they carry out that plan. So this is where they decide what type of operation they're going to be using. And the last is explain. So after they write the answer, they explain the answer with a short sentence. Does their work check out? So they need to be asking themselves the question, does this make sense? The way that I solved this and the answer that I came up with. The next strategy is the trick strategy. I can't take any credit for this. This is a Jacob Wilson strategy. Tricks is an interesting strategy because it has students work backwards. I'm not going to go through the pieces of the trick strategy because Jacob has already done that. So when you click on the next slide, be sure to watch the video and listen to how Jacob describes using the trick strategy and having students take a look around and get rid of some of those garbage answers before they start solving.
Good evening, parental units. This is me, Mr. Wilson, and
all right, a few things to consider when you are coming up with your new strategy idea. If you would rather keep the same strategy that your students are familiar with, then you might consider a few changes. In place of circling the information or circling it, can we change that to comprehending? Do students comprehend the data that they've encountered? And instead of underlining questions, could we ask them to unwrap the question or unzip the question or unzip the data and unwrap the data? So that's just a tricky little way to upgrade your old strategy. Another thing to consider is, how do you want your students to show their work? Are you going to have them record it on a folded piece of paper? Are you going to teach them the strategy for making boxes so that they can show their work so they have something to submit? Are you going to use a special numbering system to collect that information? I want to caution you on a few things about finding keywords instead of key concepts. So sometimes we teach strategies where we ask students to go in and identify the keyword. And when our students start to zero in on those keywords, they're not really analyzing the problem. They're skimming the problem and they're looking for a quick keyword. Sometimes we end up with a word problem that gives us multiple keywords. So we want to encourage students to focus on concepts instead. So after a student reads the problem, we want them thinking about what concept does this problem relate to? So are they making sense of the situation, and do they know what is happening? What is the situation that's been posed to them, and how will they proceed with it? Because sometimes we run into problems that have no keywords. I want to show you an example of a problem where if a student picked out the keyword, they might get the operation wrong. Carson gave 25 cookies away to students in 4th grade. Now she has 32 cookies left. How many cookies did she have to begin with? So as the student starts scanning this problem, quickly looking for 25, 32 left. A student who's just looking at keywords, their brain quickly goes to, 32 minus 25, and I'll have my correct answer. Well, instead here, the word left is leading them to know that they need to add. So be careful when teaching students to go in and identify those keywords. Here are some resources that you can use. This is the RISE poster and the TRICS poster if you'd like to have those for your classroom. And be sure to go in and submit your Google form after watching this video and after you consider how you might update and upgrade your current strategies.